Hi, I'm recording this video because of a situation that has developed in the UK where I live, and I think it needs to have a different perspective. The situation needs to be told in a different way. So I thought that the best way to potentially showcase what I mean is to record a video about it, because I believe a lot of the times the message doesn't get through as clearly if it's written, because some people might switch off, some people might not read it at all because they see a long line of text, and I think that talking is much more impactful. This is also for me a bit of a, therapy, and a bit of a way to get everything that I have inside of me out. So whatever reason you're watching this, I hope it gives you some insight into sort of the perspective of the EU immigrant. So first and foremost, Britain has voted to leave the EU. The vote was very close. It's 52% to 48% of the population that voted to leave. And that was very shocking for me. It was very shocking for many reasons, but the main one being that I genuinely didn't think the British people hated Europe that much. And I know that a lot of people will say, you know, it's not the Europe, it's European Union, but really now they're so intertwined. I mean, that was the intention of the European Union, was to make sure that Europe was united, and that is now falling apart. And I've put off making this video for 2 days. I didn't make it on the day that it was announced, and I didn't make it, you know, hours after I woke up early just so I could see the result, because I knew I would be too passionate, I knew I would be too angry, and I knew I would be too emotional to present the way I feel in a coherent and not even logical way, but just in a way that could speak to someone. I'd just be too angry in a nutshell. So another reason that this video was spurred on, and I've had the idea to make this video even before the whole campaign, but I thought it was just a bit too arrogant of me to talk about what could happen when we don't know what's going to happen. But now that it has happened, it's here, and I can talk about it now. So a lot of people, before the campaign went through, said, you know, when I would say, but what's going to happen to me? They would say, well, it's different with you, you've been working here, it's fine. I have a big problem with those words, because you can't know it's fine. I am an EU immigrant, and as of Friday, the 24th of June, I am unwanted here. No matter how this works out, and it could be, and I'm not saying that people who voted leave are wrong, but I just think they're underinformed, and I think they were spurred on by hate. And everything that I've seen since the result announcement has made me realise even more that this was all about hate. And the sad thing is that every single person will tell me that it's not about hate towards me. It's not personal. Well, if you're gonna go against immigration, you're gonna go against all immigration. Just because I'm white, just because I can speak English very fluently, just because of that, people will tell me that it's not about me. But that decision has affected me. And I just want to present to you in what ways it has affected me, and I want to show you exactly why I'm so afraid and so sad about this. First and foremost, to set out my sort of life, I am a EU national. I have been in the UK for 6 years. 4 of those years I studied. 1 of those years was a master's degree that my parents funded in its entirety. They funded my existence here from a different EU country, and they contributed to the UK economy. As my bachelor's degree, I didn't have to pay tuition fees, but I am repaying those. And my parents also funded my living costs. So again, they contributed to the economy of a country that they were not resident in. Since university, I have worked, I have paid taxes, I've paid national insurance. I do not bank on the beautiful provision of the NHS. The only thing that I abuse is free birth control. And that's because I do not want to have a child right now that I couldn't take care of. That is, in a nutshell, what I am. I rent, I pay my bills, I have debt, I bought a car on a finance deal, and that is how I planned out my life. And I stayed in the UK because I studied here, because I met my husband at a UK university, he's British, and because I fell in love with this region that I'm in, and I'm in the northeast. And yeah, so that's just to sum it up. And I'm trying to do this video as a one take, by the way, so if there's some periods where I'm a bit quiet, it's because I don't want to go through and edit it, because I just don't think I could, you know, go through it twice kind of thing. I've had this in my head for so long that I just want to get it out and not think about it again. So just to give you some background of what makes me angry about this whole thing, and it's mainly the fact that people who did not understand the facts were exploited. You might say, no, they knew full well what they were doing. Fair enough, there were probably good reasons for voting leave, and I'm not saying that there weren't, but I'm saying that they weren't presented, and they weren't presented in a way that was sustainable. So, to begin with, as a whole overall, YouGov did a poll on the voting day, and they predicted the result exactly, so it was 52 to 48% votes. But the interesting things underneath that, one issue has been discussed quite widely, so I will only touch upon it, that up until 50-year-olds, everybody was majority Remain. 50 plus were the ones who voted Leave, in majority. I'm not saying that no 18-year-old voted, nothing like that. Majority votes, 50 plus. So the people who will reap what they sowed for, let's say, the next 30, 40 years, were the ones who voted for the situation more than those who will reap it for 70 years. Just to give you a little bit, but that's a different issue and it's not directly related to me, so I will just park that, you know. The other thing is that in that poll, 73% of the people surveyed thought the result was going to be Remain. And even on the BBC broadcast, live broadcast, somebody said, oh, I voted Leave only because I thought Remain would win, so I thought I'd give it a shot. That's the kind of people that swung this towards us leaving the EU. And I say us because I have been here 6 years and I have grown to love this country. And, but yeah, so the even more scary thing is that the two main points of the Leave campaign, the fact that all the money that goes to the EU will go to the NHS and that immigration will be lowered, were refuted within hours of the announcement. Within hours, Nigel Farage went on television and said that what he said about the NHS was not sustainable and that it wasn't true. Then, straight after him, I don't remember his name because I was so angry, admitted that immigration numbers would not change. That's the two main reasons why people voted Leave. And within hours, that was redundant. That was a lie within hours. And as a cherry on the top, out of the top 5 Google searches after the referendum announcement was the question, what is the EU? The people who voted to leave the EU didn't know what they were voting against. There's just so much that just disturbs me about that, but the main point being that just because somebody shouted loudly enough and preyed on the insecurities of other people, they got their way. The number of times that I heard someone, say that they voted Leave because they were worried about their kids' future, and then you say, but I'm from the EU and I've been contributing here, and they say, no, that wasn't about you, that's not what I meant. Well, that's exactly what you meant. Because UK immigration is already so strict that it's so difficult to get into the UK unless you're from the EU, and you say you don't have a problem with the EU immigrants. Makes no sense. But Something that I learned this morning, which made me even sadder about this whole situation, is the fact that people straight away after the referendum announcement took this as leave to be racist, be hateful, and go around and tell people to go back home. They went around and told anybody who they saw with a different skin type or a different language to fuck off. And I didn't want to swear in this video, but that's exactly what they said. Now, I know there's a lot of people who would have voted leave for the right reasons, and I'm not against you. You have the right to your own opinion. That's absolutely fine. I'm talking to the people who had no idea what they were voting for, and they were just following the person who could shout the loudest and who would give them leave to be mean to other people, to be hurtful, to be aggressive, and to tell people to fuck off. Those people were the ones who swung the majority vote, and those people are the ones who are responsible for this. Now, a lot of you might say, well, just fuck off back home. And that would be easy. However, I am married to a British citizen. I have a family here now. I have a whole in-law family that I am attached to here. And either way, even if I stay here, it'll be more difficult for my parents to come and visit me, depending on what agreement there is. And that's another thing. So, out of the 4 options that the UK has as a negotiation, 3 of them still mean that there's free movement of people. So unless the UK goes for the 4th option, which means that the price of everything will increase significantly, because I'm sorry, but the UK does not have that much domestic agriculture. It can't grow that many things. You can't sustain this population from your own country because there's not enough space. So the price of everything will go up and your life will be so much more difficult because, let's be honest, you might think that you're stopping immigration to the UK, but you're also stopping yourself from going to explore the world. There are so many people in the age category that voted leave that were planning to retire in Spain. The number of expats in Spain and France and Italy is ginormous, and these people were the ones who voted to leave the EU. Do you think that's just because you are the UK that you're going to get everywhere easier? No, it's going to be just as difficult for you to get out of the UK as it is for us to get into the UK. So, honestly, but it just... I planned my future here. I planned my future here because this was a tolerant country. My British husband, who was the proudest British citizen there was, he was proud of the heritage that Britain had. He was proud of the fact that the UK was the most accepting country in the EU. You know, you hear like people wanting to emigrate to Canada and Australia. Why do you think that is? Because they're tolerant. Because they embrace other cultures. And UK is built on other cultures. And my husband, who was so proud of this culture, woke up on the morning of the referendum and was paralysed for the rest of the day because he didn't know what to think. He didn't know what to think of his own people that betrayed him, just because he married a European citizen. My married surname is Ahmed, or Ahmed, or however you want to pronounce it. I planned to raise my kids here because I knew they would be accepted. Because I knew that this was the country where a name doesn't mean anything. Where a name is not considered discrimination. I am now scared to be around these people. I live in the region that voted to leave the most. I live in the region that continuously, even after the result, keeps being just so smug about the fact that they voted to leave the EU. I live in the region that was nothing before the EU. I live in the region where people hate Margaret Thatcher for ruining their economy, and they go ahead and do it themselves by voting leave. Because the region was built up from European Regional Development Funds, ERDF. My own university that I went to, I suspect will have to close down because they rely on European funds because the government cannot sustain them. This region relies almost entirely, all the good stuff that has happened in this region relies on European funding or on a manufacturing plant. Now, if you're going to make it difficult for the manufacturers in this region to deal with the rest of the world, they will leave. Worse off, if you make it difficult for the people who work in those factories to live here, they will leave and you will have to do that job. The people who I can see in the shopping centres every single day who do not have a job, who live off benefits, will have to do that job. Now, a lot of people will say, oh yeah, but without the immigrants I'll have more money to myself. Well, I'm sorry, but there's a statistic. And I do not remember exactly where it was, so if you find the statistic and I say it wrongly, I apologise. But there's a statistic that 1% of the EU immigrants are on benefits. 1%. So all your doctors, you know when you go to the A&E and a foreign doctor treats you, I'm sure you'll be so happy to get rid of them and have a British person do it instead. Oh wait, you wouldn't have enough people. It's just, I'm not saying that I'm going to get thrown out. But at the same time, do I want to live somewhere where people will make it difficult for me to live? And just to paint you a picture, I have calculated it. To completely convert my life to a British one, I would have to pay over £3,000. £3,000 of money I do not have because I buy things. And I don't even buy luxury items. I pay rent, I pay electricity, I pay gas, I pay everything. And because of that, I cannot afford to become a British citizen, even though I'm entitled to it. Even because I am married to a British person, it's not any easier for me to become a British citizen. So, what you're telling me is, either I pay you more money, even though I have paid more than that in taxes, and I have paid for your NHS, the NHS that I use very infrequently, or I leave. And I leave my entire life behind. And I change countries. So that's the situation that I'm faced with right now. I'm faced with the very real possibility that I will be treated like an international citizen. Now, international people that I studied with after university needed to get a job that earned them. So I don't know where this finished recording, so I'm just gonna start from the top. So what I'm scared of is the way I'm going to be treated. So if I'm going to be treated as an international citizen, people that I studied with who were international citizens needed to earn at least £25,000 and needed to find a job where the employer can prove to the British government that there is no other UK citizen who can do that job better than them. So I'm going to be in a world where I'm not going to be able to get a job. So there is the very likelihood that that we might go for the same contract as Norway or Switzerland have, in which case there would be still free movement of people. So I could stay here and not apply for citizenship but transfer everything else. But even then, it just, I don't know, I've been contributing to the UK and I've loved living in the UK, and I feel like I've just been told to go back home, and I've just been kicked in the nuts for contributing to this economy. And a lot of people feel the same way. A lot of European citizens feel the same way. So I'm faced with the decision of, do I pack up and leave the life that I have built here? Or do I stay and fight the people who do not want me here? I'm not sure what decision I'm going to make yet. There's a part of me that's very stubborn and that wants to see through and buy the citizenship, just so that I can have something to show for the fact that I have contributed to this economy, and so that I can have it easier to see my family here in the UK. But I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm going to wait the 2 years and see what happens. But just, I guess, the point of this video was not really to change anybody's mind, but if there's one person out there who voted leave and who can now at least say, maybe it was a mistake and I wasn't well informed, then I'll be happy. But I'll leave you with this final thought. When you feel like you're going to tell somebody who's a European citizen that they'll be fine, please don't. Because I'm not fine. I'm not fine and I will not be fine. So yeah. Thanks for listening to me. I hope that's at least somewhat informative, and we'll see what happens.